Right ahead. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are straight up 12 o'clock, so we're going to go into our work session for, this is our July 2nd meeting, and this is June 28th. And we've got our usual habit of providing a presentation if we have one available. In this case, we do, and I'm pretty excited to hear from these folks. And then we'll go into the discussion of our agenda items. Our work session says that we would have a presentation by Mike Slaughter. That is actually inaccurate. He will not be here today. He will be at our board meeting on Tuesday. So that will not be a part of this, but that's gonna fall under our agenda anyway, we can have a quick discussion at that point in time. So Ms. Sherry Fountain is here. She's in the back there, and she's going to provide us some information on parking meters. There are two companies that I'm aware of, there may be more, but there are two that I know of, who do parking meters in downtown areas, and Ms. Fountain is part of the IPS group. That's right, IPS Group, Inc. She's gonna make a presentation to us today, and then at our next work session, we have the other group that's gonna be making a presentation. So this is, no preconceived notions here, just information. So if you would like to, Ms. Fountain, you can introduce yourself and start however you like.
Okay. Let me get over here so everyone can see. Thank you very much. As I was telling the mayor here, you guys are very important to us. Don't take it for granted. I drove 6 hours to get here. I'm from Arkansas. Our company is the IPS Group. We are out of California, out of San Diego, and we are the inventors of the single space meter that takes credit cards. So we've been around for a while. I unfortunately have been around much longer than that in the parking industry. It started in 1990, so I've seen a lot of changes in the parking industry as I've come along and learned the ropes, so to speak. I know you guys have been looking at parking for a while. I've had phone calls from people in Starkville for probably the last 6 or 7 years, just interested in ways to try to manage the parking better. So hopefully we can address some of that today. Now let me be clear. The company that you're talking to next week, SP Plus.
Yes.
We're not competitors of theirs.
I'm sorry. Okay, I misspoke.
Yeah, no. That's good. We work with them. They are a management company, so they will come in. They will provide you with equipment. They will manage that equipment for you as well, and then you pay them for the entire thing. Okay. We are just a manufacturer, so we provide you the equipment. You put it on the street and you manage it however you want to, whether that be with SP Plus or with your own city department. So we work with them. We are not competitors of theirs at all.
Okay, all right, my misstatement, but I appreciate the clarification.
Sure.
Thank you. And just to be also clear, actually this board, to my knowledge, the previous board didn't have any presentations on parking meters, did you? So this board really hasn't taken this subject matter up.
Right.
When you made your comment, that's the Main Street Association through the partnership and our businesses in town have kind of toyed with this idea off and on over a number of years. So just want to be clear that this board actually has not taken this subject matter up.
And individuals, maybe private parking lots, things like that.
Sure.
You are correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking to the mayor. Mayor, good evening, how are you?
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor.
Apologize for the tardiness, brief me on where we are.
She just got started. Her name's Sherry Fountain, and she's working with IPS.
What did she say?
She said her name is Sherry Fountain, and she's working with IPS.
Okay. All right, where are we on this? What have you told us so far?
So far, I've just told you that we are a manufacturer. We're based in San Diego, California, and I'm based out of Arkansas. Been in the parking industry since 1990.
All right, okay, this is what I want to ask, and I'm out of breath trying to get here.
I understand.
Been in court, been out of town for the last couple of days.
Sure.
I saw in the newspaper, and I guess this is why I'm here this morning, primarily about the parking meters. And what I'm interested in hearing today from this, from the presenter, the mayor, whoever brought this, I don't know who idea it is. Have not heard anything about the parking meters, other than what's in the newspaper. Have not received any complaint about the parking meters. Have not had any businesses to approach me about the parking meters. Have not had any citizens to approach me about the parking meters. So I don't know whether this is a revenue generating matter or not. Over my 26 years here, there have been some questions about downtown parking, but the honorable boards in the past have always seemed to resolve the matter. You know, have the free downtown parking behind the Starkville Cafe. We have the free parking by Evans, Shine Shop, and so, you know, what.
You're wondering why I'm here, basically,
Let
yes.
me finish talking.
Okay, sorry.
And when I finish, then if I have a question, I'll let you know. And so what's happening is that, you know, we have a downtown parking officer, and he works part-time, and there's some issue about downtown parking, then we can increase the number of hours for that parking officer. You know, when you get meters, the downside on that is, if the board is gonna get the meters, then the downside on this, because somebody's obviously has moved forward with this to get this presented here today, and the board has not spoken on this as of this moment, officially that is. So if, you know, if there's a problem downtown, then, you know, why are we looking at the fact of trying to get some parking meters, the cost for the meters, the maintenance of the meters, and you know, if we're trying to generate revenue, if that is the case, it may not be, then we can look at other ways and means to do that. Some people gonna get discouraged if we had to proceed with the parking meters downtown. Some people may not find any money in their pocket to park. You know, and we have a great downtown. The businesses are coming. People go downtown when they're just for a number of functions, you know, for Mississippi State and so forth, you know. And this always come up over my 26 years from time to time about downtown. But we've always managed to do this without meters. I think we need to, I'm saying all this just to lay a foundation to it. You know, I think we just need to move with this conservatively, city. If there's a problem downtown, I saw something came across my phone, some merchant want it, some people do not want it. You know, let's increase the time for the parking meter. Let's have some public hearings to see whether this is necessary. But I think this is a very non-conservative way to be at this point. I don't know how we got here so fast and so quick. We have not gotten out of annexation yet. It seems like we got from one issue to another. This environment is so jam-packed with controversy. Most controversial term I've ever been in. 7 terms, most controversial. Yes, it is. I'm tired of all this controversy.
We appreciate your input, Vice Mayor.
I got the floor.
Actually, you don't, because this is a work session and we just talk back and
But
forth. So I'm going to help you because I'm going to explain to you how we got to this point. Let me give you how we got to this point.
Point of order.
This, you made point of order. This is a work session. This is a
Well,
work
we have
session.
the right
This
to do
this
that.
lady does not know why we got here, and I'm happy
not
to share
talking
that.
to her.
Actually, I think you were.
I'm not talking to her. Ma'am, I'm
Okay.
gonna give the floor in just a minute.
Well,
So what I'm saying is we need to look at all the ways and means. I'm not talking to her. I'm sorry about being late. Whenever I come in, I don't get personal. And my feelings not hurt. I'm just taking care of business while I'm here. So attorney, you know, I have the right to speak anytime, so I'm talking to the mayor board. I don't have personal agendas when I come here. So, you know, they may not like the messenger, but that's my message, so I yield.
okay, thank you. Well, let me see if I can help. The reason it's here is because there has been dialogue. As I was saying, Main Street has often asked about this. They've had presentations on this. And I think information is always interesting and always good for us to consider. This is a concept that has been looked at, as Ms. Fountain said, for 5 or 6 years she's heard from it. Main Street has had a presentation from both this lady as well as the SP Plus folks. And I thought it was an interesting concept that the board could consider. I happen to think that we as a board have an obligation to look at all kinds of ideas for our city, whether it is parking meters, or it is Go-Cup, or it is parks, or it is annexation. And so I don't think I was here to be a caretaker. I think I'm here to get things done. And as a part of that, I think things that are interesting to our board and our city are worth presenting to the board. There is absolutely no conclusion to be drawn from this. This is an opportunity to learn. And I always think that learning things that cities do and that others are looking at is beneficial to our community. So with that in mind, that's the reason for the presentation, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, if I recall, I mentioned that to the Vice Mayor at the last board meeting, and he said he thought he'd make an effort to be here today, and I appreciate you being here. So thank you very much. Now,
I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
She says she's been receiving calls from the city for 6, 7 years. This is my first time of hearing anything. And then for it to get this far, seems like the board should have been briefed on this before we go into a section on it. The board not been briefed on this at all. I ain't heard anything about this.
the only thing you're being briefed on is what this looks like, and so that's the reason
I'm
I'm
just saying,
asking.
for us to get to this far, to bring somebody in to do a study, to start thinking about it. This is my first time hearing it when you texted out, when you tweeted out. I got it. That's the first time I'm hearing it. Next thing I know, we in a section on it. That's the only thing I'm saying. If somebody been calling them 6 or 7 years.
No, it's been private individuals, it's been the down Main Street mission, it has not been anyone from the city. It's been individuals involved with the city that have been
But what I'm
contacting
saying,
them.
man, if you knew about it all this time, look like you should have briefed us on it before. Now you should have said, well, we finna do a study, we finna look at parking meters. You know, I'm just saying,
We're
just
not doing a
just
study. She's gonna show us possibilities, that's
Okay.
all. There's nothing to be studying, we're just learning. And I happen to think learning is a good thing.
It's a
So,
good thing.
Ms.
Are we
Fountain,
good?
you go right ahead. Thank you
Okay,
so
will
much.
that video play at this point? Just a brief introduction to IPS and who we are.
The new landscape is emerging, one that sees infrastructure evolving and adopting innovative technology to meet the needs of growing societies. We are IPS Group. For over 20 years, we've pioneered this new landscape with intelligent parking and IoT solutions that help the cities of today become the smart cities of tomorrow. Our award-winning designs and patented technology have been employed around the globe with proven benefits for our partners, their businesses, and their communities. We recognize the intersection of big data and smart policy. We rely on sustainable practices for the generations yet to come. Just as every space has a purpose, every city has a greatness. Our goal is to unlock it with the future of parking and IoT solutions, powered by IPS Group.
Okay, so basically, when and if the city is ready to add paid parking, and that's when and if, we just want you to know that IPS has a solution for you. So we've got everything from the single space meter all the way through to pay stations, pay by sale, an enforcement solution. We do merchant processing. We can offer you a system that is a full ecosystem. You don't have to step out of that box. You got everything online under one umbrella. Okay, so that's basically who IPS is. We're as little or as big as you want us to be. As you can see today, cash basically is still in play when you're talking about paid parking. The majority of transactions at this point are going to credit cards. No one carries cash in their pocket anymore. Everybody's got their credit card, debit card, or their cell phone. So with our systems, you can offer them 3 or 4 ways to pay. They can still do it with cash. They can do it with their credit or debit card, or they can do it with their cell phone. It's very simple. We've been around since 1994. We invented the single space parking meter in 2005. That was not the single space meter, but the one that takes credit cards. So we've got about 14 years of experience developing and improving on this meter that takes credit cards. We do 250,000 units deployed right now across the US. We process over 1 million transactions per day through those meters, so we get a lot of activity. We've got a lot of bargaining power with the Visa folks. We've got 160 employees, and we're installed in over 250 cities. So that's a little bit about IPS, just to let you know that we are definitely one of your strong suits. How do I get it to let me go into that single space thing? Can I point and click? Oh, will it work? Oh, the single space right up here. We'll start it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, these are our single space meters. This actually is a picture of Oxford, Mississippi. These are the meters that we've got installed there. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Oxford situation. You guys know what went on there? Took them 3 years, not 3 years, 3 attempts, Mayor Patterson, to get parking meters instituted. They had a horrible parking problem downtown. No available spaces. You had Jim parking in front of Sally's shop. He was there all day. She had no space for her customers. It was just a nightmare because there was nowhere to park. In theory, you want 2 spaces per block to be open at all times. That's the best solution. So when someone comes up or drives through, they've got a place to park, they get out, they go do their business, they come back, they leave. So 2 spaces per block is the prime. They had nothing. So after the 3rd attempt, Mayor Patterson got all of the retail businesses on board. They put in 300 single-space meters. Immediately, the turnover downtown for their shops was much better. The shop owners were calling saying, hey, it's great, my traffic is improved, there's places to park here. People on the side streets were calling saying, hey, please come put meters in here, because now you've got open spaces downtown. Well, it's pushing those other people out to the free spaces. Well, they were in front of their shops. So they wanted more meters put in. They put in another 30, I think. They did all this with intentions of using the money that was made from this parking to go toward their parking garage. Now, they expected probably to be building the garage 5 years after they put the meters in. They are in their 4th year of the meters, and the garage is set to open in September. So they've already made enough off the meters they put in to pay for the new garage that now provides more parking. So it's been a great success story. And they did it with the single space. They could use multi-space, which they're putting in their garages now, but they did this with the single space.
Do you guys put in the meters, are those your meters out on campus as well?
No, those are run, well, SP Plus runs those. Now,
Right.
they have, what they do is they buy product from different companies.
Okay.
They keep it in inventory, and then when they need it for a city or a university or whatever, they pull from their inventory. I think those are digital or T2
Okay.
equipment. But now we do have a retrofit unit or a unit similar to that. It is just a management thing.
Okay.
Also with the meters, if you want to get real fancy, get all of the data that you can from that parking space, like when someone pulls into it, how long they stay, when they pull out. If you want it to 0 time, you can have it do that. If you want to program it to where they can't put more money in it until they move that car, so they have to leave that space, then we've got vehicle detection sensors. Now they're located in the top pod here. Instead of having to put them in the ground like you used to have to, it's a NexRad type radar. It goes in that top and it sees the meter or the car as it's in that space. So when that car pulls in, it knows it. When it pulls out, it knows it. In turn, your back office system knows everything that happens in that space. It knows when it's occupied. It knows what time of day it gets the most activity. Everything that happens there, it knows in real time. We've got 3 types. The preferred type, this is the original, that's the older type. You can do the pole mount. Things get in the way. I wouldn't go with the pole mount. If you're looking at sensors, I would stick with the dome top. Can we get back to the circle there and then go to, let's go to multi-space up there. I believe this is probably what you guys are interested in since you don't have any meters now. This would be your most inexpensive. This unit is going to run you probably around $6,800, something like that, whereas a complete single space is going to run you around $900. This unit, you can set it up. It's multiple spaces. You can do a pay and display, which means the person walks to the meter, they purchase the amount of time, they get a ticket, they walk back to the car and they put the time of this ticket in the car for enforcement purposes. You can do a pay by space, which means they go to the meter, they know what space they're in, they pay the machine according to the space. Or you can do a pay by plate. And the pay by plate is the newest version. It's what most cities are going to. So they walk up, they enter their license plate, and they pay for time for their license plate or for that vehicle. There are a couple of advantages to that. It gives the patron a chance to move from one space to another. So say they're parked here at City Hall, they stay here 15 or 20 minutes, but then they go way down to the other end of Main Street. if they park again, they still got time left on their plate. So it's forgiving for them. They didn't lose their time because they moved spaces. Yes, sir.
What's to prevent an employee from coming out and just metering it all day, or, every couple of hours?
Hang it all day?
Yeah, without moving their car on something like that.
On a pay-by-plate or a?
Well, just the kiosk type deal, multiple station, if you're not having something detected right there in front of it, there's no way to prevent that.
There's really not. You can incorporate the handheld ticket writer that has a digitalk kind of thing, or talking tires kind of thing. It's a digital talk, basically, is what it is. So it takes a picture of the vehicle where it's sitting, and the tire stem is where it is. So you know if that vehicle is moved based on where the tire stem is located. But other than just enforcement, with something like that, you really could. If you want the anti-meter feeding, you really need the single space. Now you can, I take that back, if you're doing a pay by space, you can do that. You can program it to where they can't put any more time in space 1, 2, 3, 4 until that time has completely run out. Or you can actually set it to where they can't see if there's any more time left on it. So you can do a lot of things on the back office system that kind of shows you that, but to truly prevent it, other than enforcement, you cannot.
Well, and then there's that question of how much it costs if an employee is willing to pay that much for parking all day, every day, day in, day out.
That's true.
That's probably a deterrent.
That's true. Now, as a side note, you could do permits. We have a permitting option that might let you set up employee permits, just park in certain lots at a reduced rate.
That was going to be a question I have is, I know in some places, you could do, permits for a week or a month, and is that an option that you have in this system?
It is, and it's actually a standalone system, so you don't have to have the meters for that if you don't want to. It's part of our enforcement solution. The enforcement is also standalone, so you could actually even take your free parking and your 2-hour time limit, and if you want to step up your enforcement and see if that solves your problem, you can do that without adding any equipment. Now, I'd love to see equipment, but if you want to try the enforcement, if you're not aggressively enforcing that, you can use the enforcement solution and try that, and then you can incorporate the permitting options with that as well.
So in the permitting option, is that, in other places that where y'all might have used that, is that a set fee, so you pay so much for the permit for a month or a week, or?
You guys determine all that. We
Perfect.
set you up with a website. It's a permit website. There's a customer portal, so they log into that portal to purchase or apply for. It's like if you've got a limited number of permits you need to issue, whoever gets to them first, they provide the information you want them to provide, whether it be address, so you know that they're a resident of this particular area, or employee number, so you know they're an employee of downtown. Whatever stipulation you put on them to get that permit, they fill all that out, they submit that online. You or whoever's assigned to the permitting goes in, looks at that, validates it, approves it, and then it sends them a notice that their permit has been approved, and you will either mail it to them or they can print it off at home, however you want to do. You set all the rules for that.
And so that permit doesn't require them access to a parking space. It just means that if they find a parking space that is available on the street, they have been permitted to park there, and they don't have to pay an additional fee.
Yes. If you want to assign them a particular space, then it can tie to that space.
Okay.
But yeah, that comes back to the enforcement side.
So you have an option. Is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And how do you designate those spaces in some
You
kind of?
would number
some
them
kind of
and
way?
would match the permit to them.
Interesting. Okay, all right. Anyone else before she goes on? Okay.
Okay, with the multi-space, again, you can do the pay-by-plate. It's the one that's the most forgiving. It does move with the other. This is just a basic shot of the inside of the machine so you can see how easy it works. If you set up your own meter shop, you would have some technicians that could come in and they could replace. Like this is the main board here. Everything is modular. It's all plug and play, so it's very easy to use. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to work on them. I myself have changed out the main board in one. So you know if I can do it, anybody can do it.
With those multi-pay, you said when there were single pay stations that there was a radar option that allowed you to know when a car was there or not. Is that available in the multi?
It's not, because this unit is basically like this podium.
That's what I
It's
thought,
sitting
okay.
right here and it's got all of us
It's got that
around
many
it.
spaces,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, we do third-party integrations with some LPR folks, like Vigilant Solutions, who does the LPR readers. So you can do, like if you have a garage, You can do a system where you've got cameras set up and it sees the license plates as they're coming in. It lets the machine know that, okay, this plate is here. If this plate has not paid in 10 minutes grace time, then you need to go give them a ticket. It can also let them know when that machine leaks, so you know if the garage is full, empty, what have you. So you can do the third-party integrations, so you know if there's spaces available or not. You get pretty fancy when you start doing stuff like that. Okay, can we go back to, if I can do that, tell me how.
You can touch the screen if you
Oh,
like.
touch the screen? Well, look at you.
But I don't
I feel so powerful now. Okay, let's see. As one of the features, and I'll try to move quickly here, I know you guys are short for time. Park Smarter is one of the ways that we've added just recently that you can pay. I said you can do coins, you can do credit and debit cards, you can do Park Smarter. You can get on the App Store right now and download it, because it's available. We use it in several cities. It's called Park Smarter, and you'll notice it on the app. It's got the little light bulb with a car in it. You set up an account, and then when you come up to a machine or a meter or whatever, it's gonna find the one closest to you. It's gonna let you pay that from your cell phone. So if it's raining or whatever might be the situation, you can go ahead and pay without ever going to the machine. Then, when your time is just about up, it's gonna send you notifications that says, hey, your time's about to expire, do you wanna add more time? Now, that's up to the city to decide if you wanna let them do that, but that is a capability. So if they're caught in court, if they're in a restaurant and maybe they hadn't finished their dessert, whatever, you can give them that option. This also shows them where spaces are available. Now, if you've got sensors, it will show you in real time what spaces are empty. So you're not circling the block looking for an empty space. You know exactly where one is. If you don't have real time, then it's going to use the law of averages. So normally this time of day, these spaces here, there's 2 or 3 spaces open. So go this direction to look for your empty space. So it uses that, it helps guide you basically so you're not out just circling the block. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. And then they're also, we've worked out a deal with Visa and MasterCard where your retailers can sign up with them and they can make offers or they can give coupons, things like that, to the people that are parking closest to them. So if these people set up accounts, they park at these meters, the meters know it, it sends out these little bubbles everywhere and all the computers generate, and it comes back and says, hey, come on over to Subway and get a buy one, get one free today. Or it kind of targets them to let them know. So that's just one of the features that retailers like in this situation. But again, if you want to, Park Smarter is free. There's no charge to the consumer, the patron to use it. There's no charge to the city for it. It's processed through just like a credit card. So, and then my parking receipts, it's available now. It's also free. The motorist creates an account on myparkingreceipts.com, and you can do this anywhere you park. If you park at an IPS meter and you have an account set up here, you will automatically get an emailed receipt from your credit card payments. So if you travel for business like I do, you're constantly using your credit card to pay for parking, you're going to get a receipt emailed to you that shows that amount of money. You can print it off, you can do whatever. The coolest thing about this is that if you remember the pay station, I said you can pay by plate. So now I've got this account created. It's got my credit card information in it. When I go to that pay station that's pay by plate, I put my credit card in. It knows what my plate is. I don't have to enter it now. So it automatically takes my license plate number, asks me how much time I want to pay, and I purchase that time. So it cuts down tremendously on the time you have to stand there and pay the machine. We're future or forward minded. We're working with Honda now. There's Bluetooth capabilities going into the cars. So when you pull up to a meter, it'll automatically put time on the meters. And this is part of our permitting solution that we talked about. You can see the dashboard. It lets you control all the permits on your side. You can see how many available. It's a great little system. You've got total control over it. And then the data management system is probably our biggest biggest deal, and I just lost it. And it's what lets you completely control all of your meter stuff. I'm not sure how to get back there. Can you get me back to the data management system? Everything you do in the meters goes into your website. It's the data management system. Every meter has a cell modem inside. So anytime a credit card is used in the meter, anytime a maintenance technician comes up and downloads that information, and at least once a day, so there are 3 different ways it will communicate. Anytime any of those happen, all that information from the meter goes into your back office system. So then you can come along, if you have access to the data management system, you can pull everything up that's happening in that system. So say she comes up and says, hey, I parked at meter 425 and it didn't give me any time. I put in 25 cents and it gave me a nickel's worth of time, and it didn't start on me too quick. You can say, okay, well, let's just take a look. You can pull up meter 456. Okay, what time did you park? Oh, 12:30. You can pull it up at 12:30. You can see what coin she put in, how much time was on it when she put that coin in it, how much time it purchased, and when it was set to expire. So you know everything, so you can adjudicate a ticket right there. Same way with the enforcement solution. It's all online. So you can take pictures of the people that are in violation and have them on their website. So when they go in to pay their ticket, if they want to challenge it and say, I'm not going to pay this, they can't prove that I was parked wrong or I was over the line. They pull it up, you've got pictures of where they were parked and how they were parked. Most of the time they just say, okay, let's just pay this ticket. But with the data management system, it's pretty much where you get all of your information, you run all of your revenue reports, maintenance reports, anything you want to know or change or anything is in that data management system. Any questions, guys? I feel like I'm running a race here.
Don't mean to make you feel that way,
Oh, no,
sorry.
no. You can see where the meters are in the data management system. Everything is plotted, we put all that information in for you. This is the enforcement system for handheld ticket writer. Very easy to write the ticket, it prints out the top. So you can, and you actually, they can pay it right there if they walk up and say, oh shoot, I got a ticket, let me just go ahead and pay it. They could pay it right there. All right.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
There are some case studies, and you've got there are some case study videos on that as well, if you
Okay.
guys will go all the way to the end. I think Athens, Georgia, Oxford is on there, several different cities that have meters that tell you about their experience. I encourage you to watch them, and they're on our website as well.
Okay, all right, cool, I appreciate that, and you've left us with 3 of your brochures here.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to send more.
That's okay, well,
stuff.
we've got that, and that may be a possibility, but we can share too, so that'd be fine. Thank you. Anyone have any questions of Ms. Fountain before she goes?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for coming and helping me get a little bit more educated on this subject. I've used meters in other places, and I've got the ding last week when we were about to expire, and that was quite helpful actually. And so that was nice. And so I appreciate. I'm not sure that. I don't know where we are, if we're ready to move forward with this, but I know for me, I'm interested. Not so much the downtown, but for the Cotton District area, as that property has continued to increase with the recent additions of the apartments, more apartments that are coming in there. I think it's going to be a real challenge for the places that don't have a lot of off-street parking, that I think there may be some combination of solutions of enforcement or something that may be worth looking at. And I'm looking forward to continuing some discussion to figure out what would be the best solution for that area, whether it's this system or something else. But looking at this fall, when we have large apartment complexes open that have about 100 more beds than they have parking spaces, that's going to be a real challenge. They're going to want to park in free parking on the street. And quite frankly, I don't think parking should be free in those scenarios. And so I think the Cotton District area would benefit greatly, and how far down we want to extend. Main Street or the
Midtown?
folks have been interested in this, I'm okay with that, or whether it's Midtown, and I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know the boundaries and what at all, but I appreciate you coming to give me a little bit more information about this. So, as a board and consulting with the public to figure out what might be an appropriate solution.
Let me
moving
throw this
forward.
out there, I forgot to mention this, we do offer free trials. We'll put a 90-day trial of our end for you. If you guys were interested in doing that for this Cotton District, if you've got a couple of lots or blocks or whatever you want to try them on, for 90 days, we'll stick them out there, we'll do the installation, we'll teach you how to run them, and you can just promote it as just a trial, see what the public thinks of them.
I like that very much.
That way you know exactly what your cost would be, how much you're gonna make from them, and you have real numbers to put with it.
So one question I have, I think, again, since we don't have currently individual meters in place, I think I would be probably more suitable to the others, at least in theory. So are we looking at one per block, two per?
Typically, every 8 spaces is the prime.
8.
6 to 8, now a lot of cities are trying to do 8 to 10, and you might be able to with your angle parking.
Mhm.
It just depends on whether it's angle or parallel, how wide the spaces are, but you really don't want them to have to walk any further
Yep.
than that. A lot of times they'll take 2 meters, like your blocks that have, 20 spaces on them or something, they'll put 2, like one kind of on each side of the street instead of putting one in the middle. Now, one thing that you do have to think about is a lot of people think that the pay stations reduce street clutter. They look to them because they don't want the single space, because they think you got all those single space meters stuck in there. What you don't realize though with the pay stations is when you put a pay station in, now you've got to put 2 or 3 signs on the street to point toward that pay station. Single space, you don't necessarily have to do that. They're both very easy. The single space we're so accustomed to those as a society, we know, okay, it's a meter, I've got to pay it, so you put your card in and you go. With the pay station, you don't necessarily know that it's there if you're not from here, so you do have to guide them to that area. So just something like
I
that.
have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So in spaces, in places where we have currently parking on a block, we may say that currently we have signs that say you can park on this side of the block, but we don't have individualized parking stalls demarcated. So if we were to decide to go with the pay by plate, would that scenario still hold? You wouldn't necessarily have to have individual demarcated plates as long as you know that that machine is for this block and you will be forced to pay by plate.
True, and you don't even have to tie the machine to the block. They can pay that machine from anywhere. If they walk down the street and realize, oh, they forgot to pay, or they're about to run out of time, they can use their cell phone to pay, and all they're paying is for their plate, and it's gonna show up in every machine. It's gonna be in the back office system. So having that machine in front of them, they're not necessarily tied to having to walk to that particular machine to pay.
So each individual box isn't dedicated to X number of parking spaces?
It's up to you. It can be, or it can be a network-wide thing.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Interesting, thank you. Alderman Lewis?
I believe I saw this presentation about a year and a half ago at Main Street.
Probably, yes, sir.
I'm their liaison, and
Yeah.
I kind of perked up when I heard this was coming on the agenda, because I was like, did I miss a meeting, did I miss something somewhere? And I had to call, and they don't have an official position. My understanding that they will be coming out with one, with some, subject to some parameters they'd like to see if the board were to go forward with this. I'm not sure where I stand, because I see it as a fine line, because I've heard of those business owners and restaurant owners talk of, personally, from my standpoint, one restaurant here I'd like to go to, but if I'm not there at 11 o'clock, I'm not gonna venture from my side of town where my office is on Academy Road to come all the way over here, because at noon, you're not gonna find a parking spot.
Yeah.
So I see that. And also, one of the restaurant owners told me that their business went up about 20%, their lunch business, when we started having enforcement, better enforcement of those
It will.
during those hours. So I can see both sides, but it would have to be cost. The cost of the parking would need to be
It does, you're right.
reasonable enough, because you don't want to deter. It cuts both ways. If
Right.
it's too high, it would deter some potential people
You've got
coming
to
downtown,
find the fine line.
as well as.
But what you've got to make sure you do with these meters, because everything, there's a monthly fee for these things, because they have all the online communications. The single space, it's $5.75 per meter per month, and then it's 13 cents for the credit card transaction. So for that, as well as the pay stations, to be feasible financially, your rate's gotta be at least 75 cents an hour, $1 an hour. Anything less than that, you're either just barely treading water, or it's not gonna be cost effective, because there's only so many hours a day you can sell. You can't create more time, to sell, so you've gotta make those rates to the point where you've got 2 spaces per block that are open all the time. And it doesn't take much to get there. If $75 or 75 cents, $1 an hour, that's usually enough to get the employees to scoot over a block in the parking lot that's been designated for them, instead of trying to park right
See,
there.
I'm like Vice Mayor Perkins, I don't want to see this as a revenue generator per se,
Right.
but more as to help the businesses facilitate turnover.
Right.
Where more people flow traffic, be coming to the restaurants, coming to their business,
Right.
and spending more money, which is what everybody.
Right, you just need to make sure you're making enough money to cover the cost. You don't wanna be paying them to come down to park. Yeah, the revenue is just a bonus. If you're gonna use it like Oxford did to build a garage, or to put your improvements back in your downtown program. Because really, everyone thinks parking should be free, clean, safe, and available. That's not the case. Parking is a government expenditure. It's government property that your city is having to pay to keep clean, available, and safe. So somebody's gotta pay that. Not everyone uses the parking spaces. So why not get the people that use them to be the ones who pay for the upkeep on those? Now, that came from Don Shute. He's the parking expert. He's been around for probably 112 years, so.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
where do Oxford and Athens, Georgia have their meters? Downtown?
Oxford's downtown on the square, and then they've branched out to all the areas just around the square, and they've just now finished their garage, and they've got, they're putting pay stations in their garage.
What about Athens, Georgia?
Athens is all downtown. They've got about 500-ish meters, so they've got theirs pretty much citywide.
I'm sure these things, because they're sophisticated, they can be turned off at a certain time. 5 o'clock, you want to turn them off, you can turn them off.
Yeah.
Saturday, you want to turn them off, you can turn them off.
Absolutely, and you can designate special days for whatever game day is. If you wanna have a free game day parking or $25 game day parking, you program all that in,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think Oxford has theirs going late into the evenings because
They
they have
do.
such a nightlife and restaurant downtown.
Yeah, they do. And
I
you
was
can
over there
have-
about 3 or 4 years ago when we were playing for the state championship that year in football in Oxford. And went and had dinner, and I just assumed it was after 5 that those things weren't going. I found out otherwise when I
Wrong.
got back and had a present on the windshield. But
You can have them change rates during the day. So if it's cheaper in the morning because it's not busy, or if you want to be free, you can have them even not start charging until 10 or 11 o'clock, and then they can go up as demand goes up or go back down. You can change the rates 5 or 6 times a day.
And you can
Technology
no doubt
amazing.
tweak it over time as you see what
Absolutely.
your experience
You
is.
can
So
change it
whatever
from
you
one
start
day.
with is not
Right.
necessarily your end product.
Right.
Thank you for coming such a long distance. We appreciate your help and for leaving us your presentation so we can refer back to it. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. All right, and item C, as I had said earlier, was actually not on the agenda. It was an error in communication with me and Ms. Harden, I believe. So, all right, we can go into discussion of the agenda items, which is, for those who have any particular concerns about issues that obviously might or might not go on the consent agenda, if somebody wants to make a point about it, please do. We've got 3 sets of minutes. Mr. Latimer, are those all good from your perspective?
Corrections have been made and implemented.
Okay, anyone have any issues with putting those agenda items of the minutes on consent? Okay.
If I see something, I'll pull it off.
Okay, all right, so we'll label those as consent. We have a presentation by Ms. Felicia Ashford for AAU Track and Field Organization. I'm not quite sure, I think she's coming for possible outside contribution?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, then under public, this will be our second public hearing on the annexation ordinance. Mr. Slaughter will be at our meeting on Tuesday night to provide an amended look or an amended opportunity for us to look at the annexation area as I think we have kind of chatted about, or I've chatted about in various formats. When we looked out into the audience and saw those folks from University Estates, I think it was fairly clear that there was a lot of feeling about that. And so, with that in mind, I had a meeting with Mr. Slaughter set for Friday. Mr. Latimer and I were with him, and so I asked him to take a look at redrawing those lines to leave University Estates in that area out Eastleigh Boulevard in, but that area out and see what that would look like. And he's going to come back with that information for the board to consider as a second option. So that second public hearing will be there. We've noticed it and it is available. We've also got a public hearing on the conditional use for the mobile home to be placed on Louisville Street.
Same one?
Yes, that was the one that we had to renotice, and so it's coming back. And then we have the first public hearing to amend the stormwater ordinance. As we all know, this stormwater is a burning issue for us. And Mr. Kemp has drafted up stormwater ordinance that should be in the packet. Would you like to highlight some quick items on that stormwater ordinance that the board can be thinking about?
I'll be happy to provide a presentation more in depth on Tuesday night if that's what you prefer. I've outlined on the cover sheet just some of the very high points of the major changes of the ordinance, and I'll just talk about those quickly. The first is the applicability. We are recommending changing the trigger, if you will, development size from 1 acre being the minimum to a half an acre. We've seen quite a number of developments over the last number of years that are in the 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, believe it or not, 0.95, 0.99 acres that are just under the threshold. And so this would, and as you do those definitely will compound. So that is the first recommendation. The second is to also change the design storm from a 2 and a 10-year storm to a 2, 10, and a 100-year storm. This obviously is going to require the developments to store more water on their site to slowly release even the larger storms, which we have seen we're getting a lot more of more frequently, at least here recently. So those are the two big changes from a development impact standpoint. The other things that we're asking the board to think about and consider from a policy standpoint is to think about these development sites that are already fully developed out, that have already essentially been grandfathered in before the stormwater ordinance was originally adopted back in around 2006. And what we're asking is for these types of developments, when they redevelop, when they go back and do a complete overhaul or do a major addition, that they actually reduce their stormwater impact into the city infrastructure, because whether or not they understand it or not, their developments are impacting the infrastructure. And so if we're going to try to bring the entire community up to some type of a stormwater mitigation standard, similar to what we're doing with facade and sidewalk and parking lots and that type of thing, we also ought to think about doing it for stormwater. So that would be one option, and that requirement is a good bit less than, say, a new development. What we're asking for them to do is mitigate 30% of their runoff as opposed to the full mitigation for,
Edward,
say, a new development.
when would you have a situation where a built-out neighborhood was?
It would be
when would that come into play?
more commercial. A good example would be like the Burger King was on a fully developed site, the Barn Hills, and they essentially had redeveloped it. So it would.
Not so much, I was thinking I had
Yeah,
residential in my head.
Mostly commercial.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so is what triggers that? Is it less than a half an acre site?
redevelopment. It would be the same trigger size, yeah. So, half an acre or more.
Half an acre or less? Half an acre or more?
Half an acre or more. And the reason we're bringing this forward now, guys, is just so that this will be incorporated into the Unified Development Code as we go forward with that. But this is something that Edward and them had ready, and we can go ahead and look at it, adopt it, implement it. And that way we're not waiting on the other, and then it can just be dropped into the code when that comes forward.
Since
So,
we've mentioned that, any idea where we're at as far as the code rewrite and timeline?
Dr. Kim, do you have a timeline, or you have given the draft to Chris, or you're about to give the draft to Chris, Mr. Latimer?
No, it was forwarded to the city attorney, and it's up to the city attorney how long it takes.
Oh, we dropped you on that one, didn't we? Okay, so Mr. Latimer has it. Thank you very much. Okay, so Mr. Latimer, how long do you think it's going to take you to take a good look at that?
Refresh my memory, Dr. Kim. How many pages is that?
It's only 500 pages, so.
I understand, I didn't, no aspersions to be cast,
And
just
we're-
asking.
We're your only client, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
In legal terms, a lot of times you give somebody 30 days to do something. I think we're in that neighborhood
Are
for
we?
500
Okay.
pages.
All right,
yeah.
well, that's fine, just asking, we were
Okay.
just getting an update. All right, so this would be just calling for that first public hearing, that's what that's about. And is there concern about doing that, or do you want to put that on consent for calling for the first public hearing? You good?
I'm fine with it. Edward, I do have a question, not so much for this upcoming meeting, for just calling for it, but I think one of the things that might be helpful is, because I think the biggest change that where I think people are going to have concern is going to be going from the 2 and the 10 to the 2, 10, and the 100. Would be if there's a way to do a simple graphic or two of maybe some existing developments, some that have recent, just to be able to see what are the implications in terms of how much land area that would take up, or other, just I think just for us to be able to see if that's something that we're willing to do. I'm not saying for this meeting, and I don't know what that looks like, but I think when I read through this, I think the thing that's probably going to be the most contentious is going to be that. And I think for us to hopefully make a good decision, informed decision, will be what kind of impact we're actually talking about in terms of burden on the development versus what we actually get in return, and improved stormwater management.
100 as opposed to 50 or 20, or whatever. Yeah.
Or whatever, just to be able to see that in sort of physical, here's how much more land area we're talking about, or increase the size of pipe, or just whatever that might be, something to help us visualize what that might look like.
Sure, be happy to do that. I don't know if we'll have that by Tuesday.
Yeah,
but
I
we can do it. And the other thing, if this will help understand kind of where this is in the whole kind of regional realm, is we can put together a comparison chart on other communities and kind of what their benchmarks are as related to these similar type triggers.
Yeah, I think something like that would be helpful for me to see, you know, where is the right place for us to land.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, first public hearing, then we have obviously the discussion, consideration of amending the proposed annexation ordinance. That will be discussion, and Mr. Slaughter will be here for that. Consideration of the fire protection agreement. We have reached what we think is a good agreement with the university, and that should be in your packet. Mr. Latimer got word back from the university that they were comfortable with what we had put forward. The biggest change is that, number one, we've got a whole new contract because we've been having like addenda after addenda after addendum. And so now we have a fresh document, and in this case, rather than them buying us a truck, they're just going to give us money, which makes the truck ours to deal with rather than having us work through them to get a new truck. So that, plus a position, plus a couple of other things. So that's sort of the changes in a nutshell, basically. So,
Mayor, if the other board members seen the amended contract.
no, it'll be in your agenda. I mean,
Oh.
it'll be in your packet. So
There was something, though, that Mr. Ladner, had been brought up about defining the service area, and whether it would be defined by description or just defined by a map. What have we decided, or has it been decided, or are we still talking about?
Yeah, Mississippi State said for it to go ahead and go forward, they were bogging down on describing it with legal descriptions.
Bogging down again.
Again, and so they requested that we approve it with the map. And I ran that by the mayor and Chief Yarborough especially, because he's got to be comfortable with what that University Fire District territory is. And he said he was comfortable with the map, so you'll see in the packet, that map attaches to the agreement, and that map is color-coded, so it'll be no question what the MSU Fire District territory is.
You know, one of the things they'd asked for, or didn't know, but I noticed in the language, was that MSU was asking, would the golf course property be covered, and what is our, I guess, we had that included in there. It's not contiguous to where our new annexation line would be, but it's very close. I mean, we get to almost to the golf, in fact, we get the corner of the golf course, right?
That's right, and in talking to the fire chief, with it being that close, and with it being in line with the annexation direction, the chief thought it was reasonable to cover that territory and was aligned with the payment that MSU was gonna pay the city.
I wouldn't think that would be something would stop the
And
process.
so you'll see that the golf course is on the map that's attached to the contract.
Very good.
okay, thank you. And then this next item is, This is yet again a change. The last time we did Excellence Ventures, and I'm not quite sure how it went from Excellence Ventures to Friends of J.L. King, but apparently there was some change for those who were working with the J.L. King Center. Mr. Luckett asked me after our board meeting of last Tuesday to please change it back out, so we've got to run it back through us again with just a name change. It's the same contract, but it's just a name change. So if everyone's comfortable with that, that ought to be a fairly easy consent item, so.
Where are you on the?
Item D. Item D, under Mayor's Business, the last item under Mayor's Business.
I haven't seen it in my packet. I don't have it.
You don't,
It was added this morning.
oh, I'm sorry.
And Mayor, I'm gonna object to that, last item, the fire protection. We're gonna need to study it a little bit more. On the consent agenda.
Oh, it was not on the consent agenda, Vice Mayor. I think that'd be a little bit presumptuous without anyone having read it yet, so. All right, thank you. Under the board business, we have vacancies, and this would be a couple of interviews. Frank Childs has asked to be reappointed, and Mr. Lincoln has asked for consideration, so those interviews will be held. The appointment for the planning and zoning is the same set of circumstances. We have two, I believe, candidates. And then as to the school district, we have three that came up, and that will be, we're holding those on July the 16th. So those interviews, and those folks have been notified and should be at our board meeting for Tuesday. Not the school district, but the other two. Under planning, we have a special event request. We have a second special event request, and we know that those are, those will not go on consent. The third item under C is reappointment of Marko Nikovich, and he is falling under that issue that where we've made our ordinance change as it relates to them not being able to serve continuous set positions, and we did not have an applicant, so that would seem to be the an opportunity for consent if everyone is agreeable. Then we also have the reappointment of Ms. Nettles and the appointment to fill the two positions. We didn't have any in excess, so unless there's some issue, that is a potential consent item. And then I am not, this grant opportunity is something that Dr. Kim has worked on, and I'm going to give you a chance to explain that a little bit if you like. That may be, it is a grant, so you want to give us just a little bit, Dr. Kim?
Yes, it is, the money is available from the Department of Labor, and they're offering $150,000 through $2.5 million without matching to the local governments and other qualified agencies. And it is for the workforce training and employment. And I happen to found that we have some open office areas right next to us, like a 2,500 square foot. So I'm proposing to hire 60 part-time local the laborers to work for us as an intern. And if outside business want to hire them as a full-time, they just match additional 50%, and they just take them away from us. That's my plan, and I'm proposing, and I'm actually asking Department of Labor about $1.9 million. And the deadline is July 15th, and the results will come out by the end of September this year.
This is a no match from us, right?
Nothing.
Nothing from us.
But there will be some spendings like electricity and stuff when that space is used.
If that space is used. Okay, and there is some scaling to it? I mean, if you could get 100,000, you could get $1 million, or, I mean, there's some, it's not an all or nothing, right? You could get 2 interns, you could get 5 interns?
One of things they are telling is total grants awarded, it depends upon the number of applicants received. So if there will be a lot of applicants and they want to fund them, then there will be negotiation sessions about the funding level.
Okay.
What type of work would these interns be doing?
Basically, any type of work would be acceptable, because we have 13 departments that can actually serve the entire city operation. So
we could do landscaping, you could do any kinds of number of
Yes,
things.
yes.
And the supervision would depend on
Yeah,
where they were placed.
I'm actually offering, the department has like a 10% of their time. I think that would be more than 10% because we're gonna have to guide them and we're gonna have to teach them, coach them, and let them go out and do the work. So I'm putting their 10% time as an in-kind, but that's about it.
But it is workforce development. I think
Yes.
some opportunities for some of our folks to learn some skills.
And our department heads are
And our-
all on board with this?
I haven't heard anybody, nobody's yelled at me. So I'm assuming that the department heads are on board, so, yeah. Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Look
really?
indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that being on consent.
Anybody?
too.
Anybody? All right. Under engineering, we have Neil Schaefer for the road and bridge replacement, and that is the one that's on the campus of the high school that has been found to be deficient. And Neil Schaefer has been working on that one before. Edward, do you wish to add anything to that?
This is one of the 2 bridges that we applied for 3 bridges in the city to get replaced with the emergency road and bridge replacement funds that the legislature did at the last special session. We applied for those in December of 18. We got awarded 2 of the 3. One was the bridge on Starkville High, which is located right there. It's the old military bridge that connects the school campus with the athletic complex. And then the other one is up on Old West Point Road. The reason for the somewhat sense of urgency on this one is it recently was re-inspected and is going to be limited with their load limit at 12 tons, I believe. So that's really like right at or below the threshold of the school bus. So I don't know how that's gonna affect the school district's operations, but we want to go ahead and move ahead with the replacement of this bridge.
Okay.
This would include the design and construction. The funding would cover everything 100%. There's no match.
Okay, all right.
Edward, do we see this as being truly a bridge, or would this be a large box culvert, or has that been determined?
It's not been determined. We'll definitely not do anything to reduce the capacity, because this is obviously one of the major waterways in the city. One thing that we did talk about in the grant application that we don't have right now is quite a number of the students park on the east side of the bridge, and the kind of the softball parking area and the baseball, tennis parking area. So there's quite a number of pedestrian movement across that bridge. So we're going to provide accommodations for that. Separated pedestrian path is different from the travel lanes, which right now are just.
As a part of the design you're
As a
talking
part
about?
of the design.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
That would seem to be worthy of a consent. Thank you. Claims docket, no. We're going to have an update from Pafford. And then we have travel for Mr. McMullen, which I would assume is acceptable for consent. Under HR, we've got hirings, advertising for part-time athletic assistant. If anybody has any issues with any of these, hiring yet again. Another hire for a metering infrastructure administrator, hiring for maintenance workers, hiring for seasonal customer service reps for utilities, transferring from lobby receptionist to full-time clerk office assistant. Now, what is that one? A little bit of that?
So I spoke with Lisa yesterday. We have Ms. Torr, who is the part-time receptionist, and so there's some work that needs to be completed in the city clerk's office. So Lisa wants to transfer her to full-time temporary for 1 month until they get caught up on some dockets.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any issues with that one for anyone?
Mayor, I recognize you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for recognizing Mr. Asher for that. I had the same concern. Ms. Hart, Mayor, certainly I want to support the department heads, but do you foresee this temporary full-time position coming back to us in a few months, where they want to convert this from a temporary full-time to create another full-time position?
I don't anticipate that. My understanding is she is actually about to leave town and go back to her hometown. We've got just a little bit of time left for her to
She is. Ms.
to
Torra
participate.
graduated in May of this year and will be leaving probably in about 2 to 3 weeks. I am without an intern. We've not had a part-time office assistant. There is a position for that in the budget, and she graduated and left May 1st. So that position has been vacant, Vice Mayor. And we did discover yesterday, doing some research on a project, that some of the minutes from the 1960s and 70s were not indexed at all. So I would like to utilize her while she's still in town to get us caught up, just.
With that representation, I have no objection.
Okay, thank you. Well, we will put that. And this next one is authorization to hire in the fire department. I'm assuming that that is not going to be a consent item, or is it?
Mayor, I'm just looking, but, let me see.
Yes, sir. This is that training chief position.
Mayor, I would suggest that, I just saw the packet as I was sitting here.
Yes, sir.
I would suggest that we put that on the agenda following executive session.
Okay, we can re-swizzle that one.
Yeah, I just saw.
Understood.
I was looking at that.
Understood. All right. Lisa, you and I will talk about that after we close our work session. Then we have a facility use agreement with the basketball league, and approval of revenue and discount policy, and we'll probably need to make sure that we have an opportunity to read that one before we look at it, or before we address it. Utilities department, we've got surplus property, which is always a good thing that we can get rid of instead of having it around.
Is the facility use going to be in the consent?
I put a C by it, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yes, I put a C by it. And then, but best quote for removing trees and stump grinding, that's a part of our Pleasant Acres project. Best quote for manhole material purchase and equipment lease for vehicle charging stations. Now, this is kind of cool, y'all. Terry, would you give us just a quickie? I know we're running close to, well, we're past our hour, but give us about a couple minutes on the charging stations.
We're seeing a huge increase in electric vehicles being removed into the area. That's what this addresses. It provides vehicle charging stations for electric vehicles. Part of 7 states is part of one of our organizations, so it comes into a lease operation that we can provide. So
I think that's awesome, and you're planning for them behind Starkville Cafe in that public area? Is it?
that's one of the locations. We've got several locations around. We'd like to locate them where they are convenient, visible, but at the same time not.
Okay, are you gonna have a map that goes with that, of locations, or have we determined it?
It will actually be put into a bigger network that people use to have electric vehicles. You know, they charge up and say, where do I stop to get charged? So it would be listed.
I meant a map for the board for Tuesday night.
Oh, I'll get you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Y'all have some input into where we would locate that, so there's a good bit of flexibility. We provide an electric service, and then they would actually come in and install it.
Okay,
So that's
all
what
right,
that is.
great. I think that's really exciting. I had somebody ask me about electric charging stations today, as a matter of fact. Best quote for optical ground wire pole hardware, and then an online billing and payment processing service to our SEDC. Anything? Okay, and then we will have 2 items under executive session. One is property acquisition, and the other is personnel items. So anything further before we, yes, sir?
Do you have any ideas, the extent of the damage on the garbage truck?
Spoke with Calvin a few minutes ago, and he said they were gonna try to have it ready by the middle to the end of next week. So, yes and no.
I mean, as far as the monetary amount?
Oh, no, we don't have a monetary amount at this point. So, but we're hopefully, this is item number 3 for a sanitation department. I am very hopeful that that is gonna be like 3 strikes and we're done, and there'll be no more activity associated with the sanitation department for a while, as it relates to, things going on. So, anyway. All right, if there's nothing else, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see everyone on Tuesday.
Okay, drop something.